As I mentioned in the preface of the Mass, today we celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany. And what we're going to find out in today's Gospel reading, and the Gospel itself comes out of the 2nd chapter of Matthew, verses 1 to 12. What we're going to discover in today's Gospel reading is the three Magi not only see Jesus for the first time, but they realize when they look upon Jesus what Jesus is going to become, exactly who he is. And this is evidenced by the gifts they decide to give to Jesus. Very powerful and symbolic gifts. Let's take a look at verse 10, 11 of the 2nd chapter of Matthew. And verse 11 really is the one that highlights the symbolic gifts. Verse 10, they were overjoyed, and that's the three Magi, and sang the star. And in entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, highly symbolic gifts. You see, the Magi had what we call an epiphany. That's why we call today the Feast of the Epiphany. And the word epiphany is a Greek word which means to understand something. It's a eureka, a moment. I get it. I understand. I see exactly what I'm looking at. I know exactly what I'm looking at. Total understanding is to have an epiphany, how important epiphanies are in our lives. They had an epiphany. They understood exactly who Jesus was, what he would become, and that's, again, evidenced in these three gifts. The gifts of gold. Gold was a gift befitting a king, and Jesus would become the ultimate king. The frankincense was an incense used by the priestly class back in those days. It's the smoke. Many priests still opt to use frankincense as the incense they use at Mass. Jesus Christ would become the ultimate priest. He would eventually use that incense. And probably the strangest gift at all to give to a little baby, the gift of myrrh. And myrrh was nothing more than an embalming fluid. There probably has never been a baby prior to Jesus, and probably never a baby after Jesus that was given a gift of myrrh, embalming fluid, at the time of their birth. But the Magi realized what? That eventually Jesus Christ himself become the crucified Lord, and others would use the embalming fluid on Jesus as his body was taken down from the cross. You see, the Magi, they understood. That's why they get the subtitle, The Three Wise Men. Because they could look and they could see, they could look and they can understand. They had epiphanies. How important those are in our lives. When you lack an epiphany, and you look at your wife or you look at your husband and you can see some depth in their eyes. You can see just by looking at their eyes that something's wrong. If you don't have an epiphany, if you just look and you're not taking the time to understand, you might not see the trouble in their eyes. So you never ask the question, what's going on? Sit down, let's talk. But if you're blessed with an epiphany, you'll be able to look at your husband or your wife or your son or daughter and realize, just by their eyes, just by the way they're acting that particular moment, something is wrong. I'm not sure what it is, but something's wrong. Sit down and let us talk. That's the gift of having an epiphany. How often we miss what's going on right in front of us. How many arguments occur between people because you don't see the entire picture? You only see one view, one side, one angle of the picture, and that's your angle. You don't see the picture from the other person's angle. How many nations have gone to war because they don't totally understand what the other nation is doing? They know what they're doing, we don't know what they're doing, thus we're suspicious, thus we become angry, and we're going to war. We're going to watch a little video about what happens when you don't see and understand the entire picture. Because there are two sides to every picture. There's two sides to every story. And when you don't take the time to try to understand the other side, you lack an epiphany. And when you don't have an epiphany, when you don't understand, that usually makes you angry. It works something like this.
Bro, that doesn't even make sense. It makes total sense. You just open up your mind and you listen to other people's opinions. That doesn't
What's going on here? What's going on?
John's being ridiculous. I'm being ridiculous. You're the one that thinks that. How can you not see
Okay, boys, calm down. Okay, everybody take your seats. Matthew, John, come up here, please. John, stand over there and face that direction. Matthew, come over here and just do the opposite. Thank you. Okay, boys, turn around. John, what color is the ball?
The ball's white. Seriously? Bro, you just like making things difficult?
Well, what color do you say the ball is?
Black. The ball is black, clearly. I don't know what you see, Ron, but the ball is white.
Without looking at the ball, I want you to both switch places. Okay, both of you, please turn around. And what color is the ball now? Okay, please have a seat.
Throughout our lives, we believe many things, and we hold dear what we think is right and true. But at times, there'll be others who disagree with us. What we believe to be 100% right, they believe the opposite just as strongly. Well, how can that be? Can't they see? We can become frustrated, we might grow distant, we may even sever relationships entirely. Slow down. Breathe. Step into the other person's shoes. It'll make all the difference.
That's the way life works. That is called having an epiphany. When you take the time, rather than getting mad and getting angry and accusing the other person, why do you insist that it's black? Why do you insist that it's white? When you say to yourself, well, there's two sides to every story, there's two sides to every coin. Let me see the other side of the ball, and the ball is white and black. Both of those men were right. When they looked at the ball from their side as black, and the other one said this ball is not black, they were both right. Let's have an epiphany. How many arguments in families are caused by a lack of knowledge? You don't know the whole story. You just only know your side of the story. You believe that your side of the story is the right and proper side of the story. You fail to realize, at least at that moment, something you were taught when you were little. There's two sides to every story, but you forget that. And then you make assessments and judgments. And you get mad and angry. How many families have divisions? They haven't spoken to each other in literally years because of a lack of an understanding, a lack of an epiphany, where they settled upon seeing only one side of the story. The beautiful part of the three magi, which is also called the three wise men, because they were wise enough, they were given this gift of seeing who Jesus was, what he would become. They had an epiphany. That's why they gave him the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Had become the king and a priest and a crucified Lord. They understood all that. Maybe tonight, if you're dealing with an issue with a family member or a friend you haven't spoken with in some time, maybe as much as you are convinced that they are wrong, maybe they're right, maybe you're right. It's just that you're only seeing life from your side. You're not putting your feet into their shoes and seeing life from their side. Maybe what you might want to pray for when you say your prayers tonight and tomorrow morning is, Heavenly Father, give me the gift of an epiphany. Help me understand what's going on in my life. Help me to look at my spouse, my wife, my husband, my kids. Allow me when they are hurt, when they're injured inside, and they might not be crying outside, but allow me to see that they need help. They need me to sit down. They need me to say to them, we're going to talk. Because when you miss what you're looking at, when you don't get the picture of what's right there in front of you, you just don't get it. You're not having an epiphany. Then you're bound to make a pile of mistakes. You're bound to make what's going wrong only worse. The three magi, three wise men. They were wise because they were given the gift of an epiphany. Heavenly Father, allow me to have epiphanies in my life. Allow me to see what's going on right in front of me so I can respond accordingly and act properly.